especially in journalism, the cost of content making is diminishing because nobody's paying for content anymore. Like it's like on internet, everybody's making content. And because of that, the value of content making has decreased. And if you don't pay for media, the media has to go to places where they get money. Like they have to go to people with big pockets. And the moment they go there, they'll be compromised. So if we as consumers start paying for journalism, for media, like we pay for any other service, the news making industry will flip.
A discussion between Piyush Ghosh with his friends and co-founders Tuhin Sen and Tanison Matthews in a park in Bhopal has led to India's first positive stories-only newspaper in print. The Optimist Citizen has since grown to over 250 members and more than 1,000 subscribers in about 25 cities, with digital reach in other countries as well. While Piyush's focus right now is not for it to become the next big newspaper, but for the Optimist Citizen to be an agent of change, to push mainstream media houses and readers to give equal importance to good and positive news. Let's listen to his journey. You grew up with parents who are social entrepreneurs. So can you tell me how that shaped you?
That's a good question, but, I would have been able to answer that if I would have been someone else as well. But, somebody asked me what has been your parents' impact on you. And I told them, I might not know because I have never been anyone else. So,
yeah.
But honestly, because of my parents, I, have been able to meet some incredible people very early on in my life who have been doing some incredible work. And I think that has a lot to do with what I'm doing today with my work at the Optimist Citizen. Like, it hadn't been for my parents, I probably don't think I would be doing what I'm doing today. And, so my childhood, my sister and I, we are twins. And we have, grown up seeing people all around our house. So like our house used to be this central place in Bhopal where everyone used to come and bounce off ideas and do all of that. So we have grown up in that, we have grown up in that environment where we have had people, just exchanging ideas with our parents and all of that. I think that shaped a lot of, our thoughts. And, we have grown up in a different, I would say a different world than a lot of our other peers have. And I think because of that, we are probably following what our parents are doing.
Yeah, I'm sure when you're meeting so many interesting people, it'll definitely mold your perspective, right?
It does. It does massively, and you get to hear stories, inspiring stories from so early on in your life. It just gives you a direction to, just go ahead and just be like them, or just, get inspired to do something like them.
Okay. So you went ahead and studied economics. You're an economics graduate. And I know that you came across so much of bad news that you felt really, kind of saddened by it. But was there any particular event that pushed you to take the decision to start the Optimist Citizen?
I have been an avid newspaper reader from a very long time, like since I was a kid, and I used to participate in debates and quizzes and all of that. So like I was totally into news and current affairs all the time.
Okay.
And, like you said, whenever, I saw the newspapers and, whenever we were generally having discussions on, on breakfast every morning, every morning we used to see the newspaper and all we saw was, news of this is going bad, this is wrong, this is an accident, this is a rape threat, and just when you start the morning like that, it didn't give a good feeling to all of us, right? And so I've been discussing this with my father for a very long time, and there were several other friends who felt the same kind of a problem. And it was just when I was in college that my father and a few friends of ours, we were discussing, what if we have a newspaper that you read in the morning and feel really happy and inspirational. And he said, wow, okay, this sounds really exciting. And, and then we also related it back to several instances where we have learned that a lot of people, when they read negative news, it, stimulated some negative actions out of them. So a few years before we started this newspaper, so we had one of our acquaintance, she was watching the Nirbhaya, the rape coverage on TV for very long. And, she felt something about it and she then tried to commit suicide. But I wouldn't say this was an independent event that prompted us to start what we did. But, several events like this where we realized, small instances like when in the morning, when my mother read a newspaper and she saw an accident news, she would be very afraid for me going out, and she would just think a lot about what if this happens with my
Yeah.
kids and all of that. So just thoughts like these, when we don't realize how much the kind of impact negative news gives on our the subconscious brain. So we thought, if negative news can stimulate negative actions, why can't positive stories of people doing incredible work in different parts of the country, why can't that inspire people to do good? So with
Yeah.
that thought, we started the Optimist Citizen, just to make people's mornings happy, so that they're able to get up with a fresh mind, read something very inspiring, and probably just get inspired with them, and then replicate it, or just engage with positive work.
And you started this with your friends, two of your friends.
Yes, yes. So I was in college, and my co-founder. So we met in school. So my co-founder is Tuhin Kumar Sen,
Yeah.
and we studied in the same school. And so I called him up saying, I have this idea and thinking of starting this up. So why don't you come over? So it was just a casual discussion, two friends coming together, and most of the time we played FIFA on our computers. So we didn't really discuss that that night. We didn't really discuss anything, but it was after that then we thought we should do this seriously. And then we called all our friends. So we were first time entrepreneurs, so we didn't
Yeah.
really think much about how to build a team and all of that. So we just randomly call all our close friends saying, we are starting this up. Would you like to come and participate? And then we had a small meeting in a park called Ekant Park in Bhopal.
Okay.
So like 5-10 of us got together in a park and then started discussing about this.
Okay. So did you see it as an experiment, or you were very serious and you had certain goals for it to achieve in the beginning when you started?
When we started, we didn't really think it of as seriously as we are today. It was more of an experiment that we wanted to do. Just wanted to see how people respond to an idea like this. But then when we started it off, and then our first newspaper copy, it was on a piece of chart paper. So we didn't have money to print a newspaper. We all come from very
Okay.
humble backgrounds, so we didn't have money. So we got a chart sheet for 5 rupees, and then we wrote stories on A4 paper, A4 white papers, and then pasted the
Okay.
A4 papers on the chart sheet, and then folded it up to make it look like a newspaper.
Okay.
So that was our first newspaper, which came out of the park discussion. And so we then went around with that to people asking, what if, how do you like the idea of having a positive newspaper? And then we started getting very good responses from people. That's when we realized that this has potential, and people are really troubled by the news that they're seeing today, and probably would like to have a paper like this. And that's when we started to do this seriously. Then we kind of got a real team, and then we started dividing departments and all, which was fun.
Okay.
When we were starting off, we had like 20 volunteers with different departments and all of that. It's fun doing like an office thing.
Yeah.
But then over time we evolved, and now it's a serious organization.
Yeah, I know. So, how hard was it for you to build your team? You have like members, I mean, journalists across many cities, right?
Right.
So, how hard was it, you know, for other entrepreneurs to build a team? What would you say?
So as I said, like initially we were just looking out for our friends, and they say that when you're starting off, you should go to 3 F's: the friends, the fools, and the family. So we went to all we went to all three, and we were luckily able to get support from that. But initially we were just looking out for people who were passionate about the idea and not really looking for skills. And probably I can safely say that we have maintained that over the time, because I personally feel that it has much more to do with the passion about the idea, or the single idea that we are planning, that we are going ahead with, than having skills, because skills can be developed over time.
Yeah.
And all the the people we started working with were first time writers. They've never had any journalistic background or anything. Like none of us in our team, like people who started off, none of us have any experience in journalism whatsoever.
Yeah.
So I did economics, my co-founder did economics, my another co-founder did biotechnology, and then another person did forest management. So you can just imagine
Oh.
how illiterate we are in journalism. But we learned everything over time, like how to register a newspaper, how to write stories, how to find a hook in the story. Everything we just learned from scratch. I think that's been a good part, because I personally feel, if we had a certain background in journalism, probably we wouldn't have been able to think the way we did, like out of the box,
Possible. You might have been daunted by the fact of, because a lot of people think to start a publication, you should have an X amount of experience. So they get daunted and they tend to play by the rules. So, yeah.
Exactly. And also editorially, creatively, we would have thought in the same box that we are,
Exactly. Yeah.
people are taught in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say, it's been an experiment. It's been a hit and trial method for us mostly, but we have had great, results for it. And team, I think initially, as we said, I said, like, we were just building on friends and calling them. But
Okay.
later on, we started just spreading the word out, saying, what if you want to participate in something like that? And a lot of young people who were aspiring writers and aspiring journalists, they started coming on board and saying, okay, we want to contribute stories. So once the word started floating, we got people from across the country, internationally as well. People just saying,
Oh,
okay, we love the concept and we would like to write a few stories, in your newspaper. Because a lot of these people, they, are probably wanting to write into mainstream newspapers like Hindu and all, but they don't get a chance. So they thought, this would be a good
okay.
way to just start their journeys into, newspaper publishing and all of that. So a lot of our young writers are people like that who have
Okay.
aspirations to be big journalists, and they just found an opportunity to do something through this newspaper. And also the concept is unique, so they really want. It's interesting to go out and find stories,
Yeah.
and positive stories. It's inspiration, and they don't feel tired of doing that. So we have had so many people who have continued with us even after their period, like their contract period, have been over. They just said, okay, we'll keep contributing stories for as long as we can, and
That's
that's been a
nice.
wonderful thing for us. Yeah.
Yeah. So you publish it once a month.
Yes.
And so initially you were only in Bhopal, right?
We started with Bhopal. Well, now we
Yeah.
are doing it in about 25 cities now. So
That's great. So how hard was it to develop that, the distribution channel to expand to other cities?
right. So what really helped us was, so when we started covering stories, we started getting stories from all across the country. And what we really did was, we told, like, I did your story, and I said, okay, Mahati, do you think some of your friends would like to read the newspaper? And I started like that. So building networks from the people we wrote stories about.
Okay.
And since the idea was very unique, and they also felt really good about having something like that, it just started to spread from word of mouth. And
Organically, yeah.
organically, yeah. Till now we haven't spent anything on marketing, to be honest. Like, we still work out of a home office.
Okay.
On my first floor is our office right now, and so all of us work out from there. And we haven't spent anything on marketing till now. It's been 3.5 years. All that we have gained is from word of mouth, and people who have just loved the concept, and they wanted to subscribe. And now we have people from across, like from Kashmir to Chennai, from everywhere. And all of them have been really, and all these people, the numbers might not be huge, but all the people that we have are really, really involved in the process, and they're very active, very loyal. So every time we publish a newspaper, we get amazing feedback from people. Like, we don't have to call up people and ask them how was it and all of that. We just get emails every now and then saying they loved it, and then we get feedback on stories.
Okay.
So whatever, the number of readers we have, they have been very loyal to us. I think because of that loyalty, they have been able to spread the word out. And
Right.
from one subscriber to other and another, we have been able to spread out. And of course, thanks to all the young people we have, they have also really spread it out in their own college networks and all of that. So we have been able to reach a lot of colleges and schools as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think if you ask me, that's wonderful because that is actually more important. The depth is more important than, the amount of coverage because, yeah, they kind of take forward the the message. Yeah.
Of course, if you have loyal customers, loyal readers, I think that's much more valuable than the
Yeah.
the quantum or the quantity of numbers.
So, in this past 3.5 to 4 years, what has been your hardest lesson as an entrepreneur?
Honestly, there are quite a few challenges that we have had. But one thing I would probably say is, since I said we all come from very humble backgrounds.
Yeah.
So we started with, almost no money. And, money is something that we're still trying to find our way out. Like, of course, we have been better off in the last 2-3 years. But how to balance, it's not necessary that whatever feeds your soul might feed your belly as well. So to find a balance of how to do that. And
Yeah.
so with our newspaper thing, we don't run subscriptions, so we don't run advertisements, sorry, so we only run on subscriptions.
Yeah, I saw on paper. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's very different from how other mainstream media work, because most of the revenue is from advertisement, but for our it's just subscriptions. So what we have really tried to do is probably build on something else. We call this impact storytelling consultancy. So what we do is we write stories for other organizations of the likes of, say, UNICEF or Prava or Amnesty, like these. So we write their impact stories. So we consult them on how to write stories of the work that they're doing, and that
Okay.
has been another revenue source for us. And yeah, so initially it was very difficult for us to sustain something like this, because printing in itself is a difficult place to be in.
Yeah.
The distribution is another painful thing. So honestly, money has been a big challenge for us. It still is, but we are somehow building it on, and we've been better
Okay.
in the last 1.5 years. Second, I would say, so I work with friends. All of us are good friends, and it's good as well as bad to work with friends, I would say, because sometimes, and you know this, sometimes it's difficult to make a distinction between friendship and
Yeah.
being workmates. So if you have to have to be true to both the friendship and the work, so sometimes it gets challenging.
Yeah.
But the four of us, we have been like really good friends from very long, and somehow we have been able to stick together even in lows and highs. And we have had really bad lows and really good highs, but we have
Okay.
really stuck together, and that's one thing that I feel is something that has contributed to whatever we are today. That being persistent and being together even if things were not working out, I think that's one thing that has really helped us. So yeah, I would say financial challenges, and then also working with friends would be one challenge that we have faced. And also, when you're starting off young,
Yeah.
you are not taken seriously a lot of time. So
That's true.
when we first started off, we were like knocked off by people saying, "Oh, you're too young to come and say this, or too young to do this." So that was a challenge when we started off. But when after we started doing it full time professionally, and then we got some credibility recognitions, then people started saying, "Oh, okay, come on, you can you're doing this very well," and all of that. So initially it's difficult to gain trust from people when you're young, but yeah, so but now we have been able to build some reputation and credibility around that.
Okay. So what has been your most painful rejection? Did people say like were they too skeptical saying no, positive news is boring, no one will read it? Did you face such kind of feedback?
Yeah, so we did receive some feedback saying, why do we only need to show the goody and the rosy part of what is happening. We, to be honest, there's so much happening in the world right now, and it's also important to see the other side of.
They'd say it like a utopian world. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, like a sunshine newspaper. But what we really say is that, aren't you getting enough of that already from everywhere else? So we're not saying that we're not saying you replace the newspaper or replace the content that you're reading. We're just saying that, hey, this is also something that is happening. Why don't you read this as well? We don't say you don't get all the other information, but we're also saying that, there's something really
Okay.
good happening out there as well, and this is also something that you should read. Like, it's equally important to know what is happening, what is going wrong, and equally important to know what is going right. So since there are already a lot of places showing what is going wrong,
Yeah.
we are trying to show you what is going right. And our newspaper, it's not too rosy and too poetic, and we just write stories, and we let you decide if this is something that you feel right or wrong, and let you decide if you want to follow them or contact them, or get inspired with them. And like, it's not preachy. Like, we make sure that our
Okay.
content is not preachy. And we also do a little bit of constructive analysis, and some we talk about solutions majorly. So if we have a problem, like any topical problem we have, we try to get experts and just ask them what could have been done, or what can be done right now. So we basically talk about solutions as well. We're not saying just showing the rosy bit, but we're also talking about topical issues and trying to find some constructive solutions to that, instead of just cribbing about it and finding out the problems.
Okay. Um, so, like, say, like a topical subject that you had mentioned, Like
Mm-hmm.
2 months back, there was all this news with the unfortunate death of Sushant Singh Rajput. There was so much news about men's mental health, and
Right.
much of the news was depressing. So, say some
Right.
topical subject that's been everyone so concerned about. Do you bring about positive stories in relation to that, saying, there have been people who have faced depression and came out of it, and do you
Right.
work on that aspect as well?
Right. So what we do is, so that's a good question. So, what we do is like an instance like this. What we would do is we would try to bring out some stories around mental health issues where people have done work around mental health so that it's also relatable to the topical issue that we have at hand.
Okay.
Also, we would have some experts coming in and addressing the issue directly, saying, something like this happened. What could have been the reasons, and what could we as a community do better, or we as as a community support mental health issues for men as well. Like, when something was going around in Kashmir and there was a lot of buzz around how young people have been, you've seen what is happening in Kashmir right now. So
Yeah.
what we really try to do is we try to write about organizations who are doing some relief work there, or some, there have been, so there's this organization in Kashmir that works on mental health of young people in Kashmir.
Okay.
And so when that, the entire Kashmir thing broke out, we start doing stories around Kashmir where we've found young people doing some incredible work and just setting up examples. Okay, you see, this is something that is going around, and we can do so much better in Kashmir than what we're doing today. So just, bringing around stories from the region of the topic and substituting it with more solutions than just the problems. So in topical issues like that, like we had, like there were a lot of accident cases on the Yamuna highway in Delhi around that. And then Delhi government came up with an idea called Angels on the Road. So it was basically good Samaritans who now can go and go and pick up the victim on the road, and then they can directly go to the hospital. They'll not be harassed by police. Now this was
Okay.
a big breakthrough. People usually don't go and help victims of accidents because they feel that they'll be harassed by police.
Yeah.
So we did a story around that, and that really broke out, and a lot of people reached out to us saying, okay, thank you for telling us that. So just, we find a problem, then we try to look for solutions and go to experts asking them, what do you think about it? And then write about that. And then we also try to find out stories from that region or from that topic and try to give people some bit of the counter narrative to what is the narrative. And I think that's what we have been doing.
Okay, that's wonderful. So, what is your editorial process? How much investigation goes into when you come across a story? Because you have to be careful when you're writing about them that this is not positive news just on face value, and this has actually been happening for a while. I mean, that person has been doing good for a while, or
Right, absolutely. So initially that was another challenge that we faced, honestly. So we were just, I'll be honest that we were just going on face value and just doing stories. This was when we were in college and we were all volunteers. But then we realized if you have to, build a good, credible newspaper, we have to
yeah.
be really good with our quality and with the selection of stories that we do. And then after that, we really started investing into research and editorial process. So we have a very robust process now. So, whenever we find a story or we get a lead from somewhere, we have an authentication checklist that we run.
Okay.
So, what we do. So if I have a story from Chennai, the team of people in Chennai, they try and, first find out about this person and then try and visit their place if that's possible. And then we have, like if I've done your story before and you're from Chennai, I'll try to call you up and ask them if you know about this person
Okay.
and, if they're really doing incredible work. So we try to find out from multiple sources. Then we also see the kind of social media presence they have. So we don't, I'm not saying that we only do stories about people who have good social media presence, but we, try to find out if they're credible enough to
Right.
be
Yeah.
anonymous. And then we have a first round of interview. I wouldn't say interview. I would just say first round of just knowing them. Like we just tell them that we want to know about your work. We're not sure if we're going to pursue this story or not, but just knowing about what they're doing. So I think a lot of people appreciate that as well. So all the people that we have done stories about, they really appreciate that we have like 3-4 steps before we publish the newspaper. So like publish the story in the newspaper. So first we just do a small checkup about what they're really doing, and we ask all the questions that we have in our mind. And after that, we have a meeting, with all our editorial team members. Then we decide if we want to pursue the story or not. And then again, we go into this entire process of doing the interview and finding out all of that. So it's like we have a
Okay.
3-4 checklist, like an authentication checklist before we venture into any story. And that has really helped us. Like we have been able to get some really good stories, and we've also been able to keep off some, work that has, that probably wasn't the way it was being shown on social media. So we have really invested into that, and I'm very proud that we have been able to do that with all the buzz that we have generally on social media. So that's why
Yeah.
our churning, like our story churning, it's not very rapid. Like we take about like 15 days to do one full story, and
Okay.
we have so 15 or like 10-15 days to do a complete
Right.
story. And we also do like 2-3 rounds of editing, and then we send it back saying just fact checking if everything is right or wrong, because we don't want to fall into that trap of fake news, and we really
Yeah, I know.
are very careful of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how much has changed in this past 3 to 4 years? I think there are many more positive news publications at the moment.
Right.
So, do you feel there's more competition now?
So when we started off, there were hardly any, and we specifically did it in a newspaper because there was none in the
Yeah.
newspaper segment. So we still have no other publisher doing it in the
Yeah.
newspaper form, and we're very surprised about that, because if they're doing it online, I'm sure a lot of people would try to read it offline as well. And interestingly, one thing that I would tell you is that our subscription only happens through our website, like on a digital platform. And most of the people who come to our website and subscribe, they subscribe for a physical newspaper, like a print newspaper, which
Okay.
is very surprising. They're coming from a digital platform and then subscribing to a print newspaper.
I think we Indians still like the feel of
The
paper
touch and
and
feel.
sitting down. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So that's been very surprising for us. And the idea has always been to just promote mainstream media to just increase their proportion of positive stories. It would take years for us to be something like a Times of India or the Hindu, and probably we wouldn't be able to reach there, and that's not our idea as well. We just want to make sure that the mainstream media, I think that's where people consume most of the news from. And I think if they start increasing their proportion of positive stories or just constructive storytelling, I think our idea would be like, and we'll be successful in that way. And we don't want to like build another Amazon and another Hindu and another Times of India. Just want to make sure that we can. And a lot of times we have we've gone to journalists, and we have really tried to find out why do these guys don't do positive news. And a lot of people say that first it would cost them additionally to what they're already spending on editorial. Second, they say is that not a lot of people like positive stories, and people really are into sensational journalism,
I
and they
know.
like
Yeah.
all of that. So we said we are showing you that we have so many people reading positive stories, and probably if we start giving them more of positive stories, now we are only giving them negative, so they're consuming that. What if we start giving them option and then find out if they're really liking it or not? And so what we want to be is basically, we want to be one central place, or one place where we can be the source or the resource center for mainstream media, and we can give them positive stories, saying, okay, we have a network now, we have a research bank. What we can do is, you don't need to spend, we'll give you stories and you start publishing it on your platforms. So we have been trying to that's been our next step of how do we want to expand. So that's been a step, that we want to collaborate with mainstream media and tell them, okay, we have now a good base of network, now good research in place. We can help you with stories, but you at least start
Yeah.
doing some stories like that. You can have a column of the Optimist Citizen, just have a small column every day and just say one good story every day. That can also work, but you have to start somewhere.
Have you started approaching the bigger publication?
We have a few. We also did something with the Deccan Chronicle and a few other newspapers. We are still trying to get into their editorial, but it's very hard to do that because they have been
Yeah.
doing this for years now,
Yeah.
and it's suddenly coming up with a random idea like this. It takes, yeah. So, but that's been our motive, that we want to really have the mainstream media pick up positive stories, because that's where actually people consume news. And until and unless we change that
True.
consumption pattern, we'll only be able to do so much. So
Yeah. From your experience, do you find that positive news has to be packaged more appealing so that people, like you said, people tend to gravitate towards sensational news?
right.
So do you feel there's a little more onus on the positive news to be packaged better?
True. Yeah, I wouldn't deny that. Everything has to be packaged,
Yeah.
properly for people to come and consume it. And but also, there's a fear of making it too much sensational and too much
Yeah.
dramatic, and too much sunshine, like sunshine and hopeful and all of that. It has to be just a fine balance of packaging it well and also bringing out the real thing. Because if we trace the same path that the sensational media does, then there wouldn't be any difference between us and them.
Yeah.
And what we have been trying to do is basically we write stories, and our packaging is not very, I would say, not very sunshiny and all of that. Like, it's more of just stories on a face, and if you judge it the way you want to do it. And I also feel that it also has to do a lot with how people consume news these days. The consumption pattern has been like, if we as consumers start sharing and accessing and reading positive stuff or constructive stuff more, I'm sure the mainstream media would have to follow the way. So if we as consumers do a little bit of conscious consumption of news from our end, I think the media would follow, because media only does what
Yeah,
people want
what
to
the
read.
readers want. Yeah.
Yeah, but also, yeah, they also push their own agendas and do all of that, but they have to come and follow where the readers are. And if I say this wherever I go, that if we as consumers start flipping that for them, and just start sharing more of positive stories, more of constructive news, more of that, I'm sure a lot of other media houses will follow it and bring out positive stories. And one thing that I also feel in the way of consumption is that especially in journalism, the cost of content making is diminishing, because nobody's paying for content anymore. Like, it's like on internet, everybody's making
Yeah.
content, and because of that, the value of content making has decreased. And you don't pay for media anymore, right? And if you don't pay for media, the media has to go to places where they get money. Like, they have to go to people with big pockets,
Yeah.
and the moment they go there, they'll be compromised. So if we as consumers start paying for journalism, for media, like we did before, or like we pay for any other service, I think it will, the news making industry will flip. Because if it's coming from crowd, if it's crowdsourced, I
Yeah.
think will be, like, the media in general will be much more progressive and much more free to write what they want to. Now it is compromised, as we all know, and media is completely bought, and they just write stories of propaganda and all of that.
Yeah,
And
and it's biased as well. Yeah.
it's super biased, yeah. And that's one of the big reasons, I feel, because people in India don't pay for media anymore. And you not India, I know you see everywhere internationally, Guardian has to ask for donations,
Yeah.
and they have donations on their first page saying, okay, we will not be able to survive if you don't pay for us. So generally media, people, I don't know what happened, like, but people have stopped paying for media, and because they're getting so much of it already on social media and everywhere,
That's
that
true.
they stop
Yeah.
paying for credible media. So for us also, we have from the beginning, we have maintained that even if we have lesser number of subscribers, we are going to keep it paid, because we want people to value the work that we're doing. Like, since we are also investing our energies, our thoughts, and
Yeah.
everything, we want to keep it paid. And we had a paid subscription since day one, and whatever number of people we have, they have been really wonderful to subscribe to it, and then just be so loyal that people subscribe to the newspaper year on year. So that's been one of our really good learnings, that if you are
Okay.
able to get good readers and people who are actually investing in media, I think you'll be able to sustain. That's what we're trying to do.
That's true. Yeah. But like you said, so much of news is already available on social media, which is free,
Yeah.
Uh, so do you find that a huge stumble for you, a block for Optimist Citizen to grow? Or you want to diversify and pay more attention to social media?
So it is a block for every media. I think every media, every news journalism thing. I think since, and also people today, everybody is a content maker now. Like,
Yeah.
every social media account
It's a
is
content
in content
creator. Yeah.
in itself. Yeah, a content creator. So and because of that, every media probably suffers, and you see big media houses, they are going bankrupt and they're not able to sustain their work, because what used to be a special job before, now it's so common because of the social media, that people don't value it anymore. And honestly, I wouldn't lie that we also have been suffering with that. And what we really try to tell people is that uh, we what we're trying to do is basically bring out something different from what you have already getting on social media. And for that to happen, we have to invest resources. And if you don't pay us, or if you don't value that content, we again would fall into the trap of every other news media that they're falling into, right? And we have to go to people, and then we'll be compromised, which we don't want to do. So our messaging is very clear to our subscribers as well, that you have to support positive journalism, you have to support constructive journalism. It
Yeah.
cannot just happen, and like you don't just read a news and the support doesn't mean you have to pay every time. You can support in multiple ways. Like you can talk about the Optimist Citizen in your networks, or you can just share a post of the Optimist Citizen. It can happen in small ways. So
Yeah.
it's really important for us to find out credible media houses, people who are unbiased, who are still trying to push through in these difficult times, and support them in whatever ways we can. And alternative media in India, there are quite a few, like there's News Laundry, and there are quite a few other people who are just
Yeah.
still trying to do it through subscriptions and maintaining, and all of them are going through a rough time, because I like we have been friends with all of them, and none of these media houses are doing well financially because of this reason.
Yeah.
But they're still holding through and pushing through, and I think we all of us need to support these media, yours as well, like a podcast like yours.
Yeah.
uh, you know uh, if ideas like these or concepts like these are not supported, it will have to die
Yeah.
one day, sadly. So yeah, we have to be conscious consumers and just support these medias in some way.
That's true. You also started Impulse.
Yeah.
When was
how,
that?
how
Could
did you
you?
get that?
It was actually in your bio. So
Oh,
I
was it?
didn't know
Okay. Oh,
that.
yeah. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Because nowhere
Yeah.
else was it mentioned. And then in your bio, I saw
Yeah.
that and I was like, okay, I was going through that and it was very
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So we haven't told people that we do it. So it's been an anonymous kind of thing,
Okay.
but impulse was more of an impulsive idea, like it sounds. So we were just, we just consume so much of content generally online that we thought a lot of general informational content is too elitist, or it's so jargonized that people might not be able to understand most of it. Because of
Yeah.
that, there's so much of, the discourse going in the wrong direction. So we thought, what if we have a place where we just could simplify things and let people know the facts and let them decide which side they would want to choose. And it's just been a hobby kind of a thing we have been doing, whenever we find something interesting. Yeah.
Okay. How long you been doing it?
Less than a year, I think. Yeah.
Okay. That must be harder for you to collate the information, right? Because there's so much statistics and you have to go
It
read
is.
it
It
and be
is.
careful. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why we do one post in a month or so. Like we haven't been posting much, but we have
Okay.
got like two people now who are just doing research for Impulse and doing all of that. And we just don't post too much on it right now because of course it's a hobby thing, and our own resources of the Optimist Citizen, we have been investing into that.
Okay.
And but luckily Impulse has picked up suddenly. Like people have really started to follow it. A lot of Bollywood celebrities follow it and pick up content from there. So for the anti-CA protest, we put out some posters, and in the Bombay protest, we had people, they downloaded the pictures and had those own posters for the protests and all. So we're really surprised. All these people like Jim Sir
Okay.
and Arjun Kapoor's sister Anshula and all these people, they have been really following it up and doing all Swara Bhaskar. And so I don't know, suddenly picked up. We never realized that these people are going to take this up, but it's just a hobby thing, and just wanting to let people simplify news, simplify facts, and
Okay.
present it so that people are able to understand it properly.
Okay. So, as with this whole COVID thing, has matters been made more worse for you?
Yes, so we haven't been printing for what, 4 5 months now.
Oh God. Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, subscription numbers have also gone down because of that, and people are sadly afraid of subscribing, like having a positive, like a newspaper at their homes.
Yeah.
They still feel that it would, yeah. So business wise, yes, but what we have really found out in this time is basically we also got involved a little bit of relief work in Bhopal and other places, and we've tried to support relief work activities in different places by just having their stories, carrying their stories, and asking people to donate to the work that they're doing. And then we also collated a big list of all the verified organizations who are doing relief work. This was in like April. We did a big list, and
Okay.
we did again then the complete authentication process. We called them up, asked them what are they doing, how are they doing it, and then we had a team of people doing that, like 5 6 people doing that. And then we had like 100 organizations in one list, all of them from different regions. So you can just filter out region and the type of beneficiary they were serving to. and where are they located, and all of that, and then you can choose to donate to them. So we did that. Then we also did a few interviews with people. So we did a interview with a doctor who started a COVID-19 hospital, like who has a COVID-19 hospital in Bhopal. And then we did a big interview with that. Yeah. And then, so they set up the entire thing. And then there were some of other doctors from somewhere in Nepal. They were also watching the interview. And on live, when we were interacting, they said that they also want to replicate their model of, management in Nepal. So, like collaborations happening on the live video. So that was very interesting for us. So we tried to do all of that as well. So yeah, we have been doing a little more of digital work lately because of the COVID thing. Printing, we are hopefully going to start from next month.
Okay. Yeah, I hope so. All the best.
Yeah. Thank you.
I know you have a QR code for each of your stories so that for your readers, if they want to get in touch, you hope to eventually build a community, for your readers and for the people you interview.
Yeah, that's been our aim. So we want to build a close knit community where people really exchange ideas, collaborate, work. And we have had so many people just appreciating the idea of having a QR code where they can directly get in touch with people. And we have so many people who do that also, when they get interested. And there's so many examples of that. So one story that we did, so this is Malcolm Kalyan Akkipedi from Bengaluru. And so we did a story. So he was basically in the corporate for very long, and then he dropped out, and he wanted to just understand what poverty really means. And then he went around in different rural pockets of India to understand poverty. And then he came back and he realized that poverty doesn't really mean lack of money. It could be lack of resources can also mean poverty. Like if you don't have access to good air, you are poor, of your air poverty, air poor, right? So he wanted to build a village which is self-sustainable in itself, and get some more methods into it. And he started something called Proto Village in Bengaluru.
Okay.
And so we did his story. It's a self-sustainable village where families live and they have their own. It's an edible thing. Yeah.
That's
so
nice.
we did the story, and we just released it online. Then a lot of people started liking, sharing. It went viral and all of that. And there were a couple of people, one from Dubai who had some land in South India. He said, okay, this is an excellent model. I would like to donate my land, and if Kalyan could replicate his model there. And then a lot of other people who were just one person from US who was really frustrated with his job. He was a subscriber, and he said, okay, I want to come back and do some volunteering with him. So just things like these. Then we did another story on a person called Aviram Rosen he runs something called Sadhana Forest in Pondicherry, Auroville. So his story also really went viral, and then people started. So we have a lot of people coming in and collaborating with these subjects, and that's really what we want. We don't want people to just read stories and feel good about it, but we also want people to engage with these subjects and
to be more proactive. And
the idea is to stimulate positive actions, not just feel good, but just people to get some action out of these stories, out of the stories that they read.
Yeah, that's actually a really really good initiative to form a community around.
And we have a very close knit community right now. So all our subjects that we have covered, we've got a group of all those people together. Then readers are also very active, exchanging notes with them. So that's really exciting for us. That's another thing that we really look forward to, of how people are coming together and forming collaborations and ideas.
Interesting. So what is your hope for the Optimist Citizen the years coming forward?
So what we're trying to do is basically we're trying to work with a few governments in Delhi, like the government in Delhi and a few other governments in North India, just trying to figure out a way to have a newspaper for school children in regional languages. So a modernly designed positive newspaper for young kids, since we all know the kind of news that they're exposed to these days. And there's so much of negativity, so much of hate, so much of just sensationalism all around. We started giving a newspaper to a few schools in Bengaluru, like about 100 schools in Bengaluru subscribed to the newspaper, and they started reading stories in their morning assemblies. And then they formed a club where every day one person would come out and read a story from the Optimist Citizen in their classroom. So we started doing all of that and received great feedback. Yeah. And kids were very excited to read these stories. And we also have a lot of stories of young people, so they really feel inspired by all these stories.
Yeah.
So now we felt, it would be a great idea to have a special newspaper for kids, for young students in their languages.
Okay.
So that they're able to get some alternate content than what they have in their newspapers or local media.
Right.
And we're hopefully working that out, and we're hoping that we're able to bring out some regional content newspaper really soon. And another thing would be again to really promote the mainstream media to get some bit of positive content from us and just publish it, if not do anything else. Yeah.
That'll be nice. And now that there's more attention on positive news, maybe, it will help it a bit,
Right.
Yeah.
We're now living in a time that, all of us realize the negative impact of negative news. And
Yeah.
that's what we say. Like, we have really started, we're lucky that we have started in a time where people now realize the importance of a positive outlet or a constructive news outlet. And
True.
like 2-3 years probably before this, people didn't have the realization of the problem statement itself. Like earlier we used to say people, okay, negative news is bad for you, bad for you, bad for you. Now people realize that 10 people shouting on a news debate is not healthy for them. And now people are looking forward to constructive journalism, and I think that's very hopeful for us.
Yeah, I know it is. Yeah. For that, I really hope, Optimist Citizen takes
Thank
off
you.
big.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Piyush, for taking the time.
Thank you. It was lovely.
Yeah, it was really good. I really loved the discussion. If you enjoyed this week's episode, do check out The Optimist Citizen. It's available both online and on Instagram. And you can check out the podcast on Instagram at Maharani Talks as well. Take care.